Welcome to another Money in the Morning. I am so happy that you're hanging out with us, and hopefully you'll be able to hang out with us for a little while. I have getting our audio set up. For those of you new to this, we record this podcast, Money in the Morning, live in front of a Facebook audience, which is you. And feel free to ask questions, comment, whatever. You're a part of the show. So we'll definitely come to the comment area a couple times during the show. So if you have thoughts about today's headlines, All right, this is interesting. We lost our internet for a little bit. Haven't had that happen yet. There's always something new at Money in the Morning. All right, let's see if we can get our pieces together. This one's funny and not funny in a good way. And then this one is, all right, silly. All right. So as I mentioned, as we do this, feel free to leave comments in the leave comments as we go, and you're a part of the show. I need to write one more little thing here, and then we're off and running. Sorry. Hey, James, I just have to get this thing written and then we'll start. I know this is exciting TV for just a moment, and then we'll begin. I totally forgot that I hadn't written out our intro. I know what I want to say. I just stumble over my words enough that I want to have a little guide. All right. Good. You're ready to go. I told myself yesterday when we did this that I'd have that written ahead of time, and started the video, and bam, did not do it. All right, guys. Remember, comments. I'll try to put them on the screen as we go. So. But feel free to comment as we do this. So this is for tomorrow, unless something big happens that makes it so that we can't do this tomorrow. But I haven't seen any breaking news today that means this won't be tomorrow. All right, here we go. I remember growing up, we'd drive down the coast of California, and there's this cool spot, the 17-mile drive, Pebble Beach, Spyglass Hill, near Carmel, California. I'd look at these houses. I don't know if you've seen the houses along the 17-mile drive, but I would think two things. Number one, how was I going to get the money to afford one of these places? And is this a place that I'd want to live? And the answer to those questions was I don't know how I get that kind of money. But number two, yeah, I'd want to live there. That'd be an awesome place to live, right along the coast. But I know that the older I get, the more it's about holding on to money, not just getting the money, but if I've accumulated the cash, how do I hold on to it? And that's what creates the worry that the next recession's coming. How do I make sure that these dreams that I've invested so much in, that those dreams actually are going to happen? And by the way, those dreams are going to be different depending on where I live in the United States, aren't they? Or even if I live elsewhere outside the USA. Let's talk about that today, shall we? Where you'll end up in retirement. Things may be going bad that might crush your dream. That's our topic on today's Money in the Morning. Live from my mom's half-finished basement. It's another thrilling episode of Money in the Morning. Hey guys, I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter. And on today's show, one publication talks about the worst city to retire in the USA. What is it? We'll have that on today's show. And also another publication talking about a horrible, horrible recession right around the corner. How do we avoid it? How do we avoid catastrophe happening? And how do we make sure that our money lasts and we get to retire where we want to? That's all on today's Money in the Morning. Money in the Morning is brought to you by Tiller. You know, if you're a spreadsheet geek like mom, or you're not a spreadsheet geek and you just want to track your expenses, set a budget for next week, next month, next year, Tiller is like pressing the easy button on spreadsheets. You get all the customization you want. But if you don't want much customization, there are also plenty of templates to choose from. Here's how you find them. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller, Tiller, for more. All right, we've got more. We got a huge party today at Money in the Morning, so let's get it started, shall we?
Here are today's Money in the Morning headlines. Ready, set, go.
And we're off. Thanks, Laura. Our first piece comes to us from Investopedia and is written by Mark Kulikowski. Investors should brace for a, quote, frightening recession. Frightening recession. Billionaire hedge fund manager Paul Tudor Jones, noteworthy for predicting the 1987 stock market crash, is becoming increasingly worried about the direction of the U.S. economy and stock market. Quote, the next recession is really frightening because we don't have any stabilizers, he said on June 18th, as quoted by MarketWatch. We'll have monetary policy, which will exhaust really quickly, but we don't have any fiscal stabilizers, he added. Jones was participating in a Talks at GS event interviewed by Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfeld. Former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke also warns the U.S. economy is likely to nosedive once the massive dose of fiscal stimulus delivered by federal tax cuts and spending hikes wear off. Quote, if you look at any asset price, you have to be thinking this is a highly dubious, unsustainable price, Jones remarked in a video clip of his talk. This inflation of asset prices has been driven by an interest rate policy from the Federal Reserve that he characterized as, quote, crazy and, quote, unsustainable. In particular, Tudor Jones noted that quantitative easing put in motion by the Fed in response to the 2008 financial crisis has produced real interest rates that not only are far below long-term historic norms, but also actually negative. Tudor Jones elaborated, quote, you look at prices of stocks, real estate, anything, we're going to have to mean revert to a normal, to a normal real rate of interest with a normal term premium that's existed for 250 years. We're going to have to get back to that. We're going to have to get back to a sustainable fiscal policy, and that probably means the price of assets goes down in the very long run. Looking back at history, noted that zero real rates in the 60s set us up for the 70s, which were marked by economic stagnation and rampant inflation, a scenario that came to be known as stagflation. In other interviews, he's issued similar warnings about asset bubbles and ill-timed fiscal stimulus. Despite his long-term bearishness, Tudor Jones expects both stock prices and interest rates to rise through the end of 2018. So talks about 2018, good stuff going to happen. But beyond that, it's going to be horrible, kids. It's going to be horrible, stackers. Oh no, what do we do? How many pieces have we had on this show about the end is nigh, right? And certainly when we look at things going down, are things going to get worse? Yes, because that's what happens. When he talks in the piece about mean reversion, things have been good for a long time with the stock market. There will come a time when things aren't as good for the stock market. And yet, when we look at the data, he talks about asset prices that are unsustainable. When you look at the S&P 500 today, the 500 biggest stocks in America today versus 5 years ago, not much difference. Companies making more money, which means stock prices go up. Stocks are not voodoo. I remember this when I was a financial planner. People would say, well, I don't play the stock market because I worry about, a stock going to zero. And I would say, number one, stocks are a reflection of value of that company. When you own a stock, you own a piece of the company. And certainly stocks can be undervalued or overvalued on any given day. But over the long term, stocks are a reflection of value. And so what's the chance, if you talk about playing the stock market, it's not like you're spinning the roulette wheel. You own a company, and if you diversify, let's go back to the S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies in America. If you own the S&P 500, you own 500 of the biggest companies in America. Are those all going to go under on the same day? If they do, well, then we have much, much bigger problems, don't we, than your money in the stock market. It's time to grab some rations, and head for the hills because our society's collapsed. That's what happens if the stock market doesn't work. The stock market's designed to go up as a reflection of prices going up. Prices go up, inflation rises, stocks go up with it. Stocks also, companies need to create value for the owners. Companies need to pay their debt. So when you look at stocks, there's a reason why stocks go up at an 8 to 10% rate over long periods of time. And the reason is they have to, for the owner to get a little something for owning the company, for the company to pay its debt, and to make sure that the company keeps up with inflation. It's very, very, very simple how that works over the long term. So things are going to get worse, but are they going to get worse tomorrow? I don't think so. In fact, this guy doesn't think so. When you read a piece like this that says there is a bad recession coming, I worry about people reading this stuff and getting really, really worried about their money, pulling their money out of stocks. Instead, I was just talking to a great financial planner, one of the top financial planners in the United States, a guy named Greg Sullivan, for the Money Tree podcast. In fact, just before we recorded this, I recorded an interview with him. And he talks about, instead of pulling your money out, have enough money sitting in reserve so you can ride through it, because you don't know when it's going to go down and you don't know when it's going to come back. So instead of playing the guessing game and losing, instead play a game where you set funds aside to get you through it. And he recommends 8 years. And he said he's been doing it for 35 years. You set 8 years worth of money in a spot where you don't have to worry about it. Like if you're super worried about the stock market, do that. Obviously, OG on our Stacky Benjamins podcast feels very much the same. Not about the 8 years, but about riding through it, leaving yourself enough money on the sideline so that you don't have to pull money out in opportune times and ride through it. So I read a piece like this, and it's funny. Our intern Caden brought this piece to me and said, "Oh, look at this." And I immediately said, we have to talk about this piece because so many people are going to get the wrong message from this. And I hope we're able to fight that. Hey, that's our first headline today. Want to say a quick hello to our friends who are hanging out with us on Facebook. We do this live before a Facebook audience. No editing on this podcast, which makes me a little nervous because some days my tongue doesn't work and some days I have a frog in my throat and you got to clear it in the middle of the show and you can't take that stuff out. But going to say hi to James and Ryan who are here. Hey guys, glad that you're here watching with us. Let's move on to our second piece, which comes to us from USA Today. The worst city in the USA to retire in is San Francisco, this piece says. Come to San Francisco for the scenery. Just don't plan on retiring there, writes Darla Mercado from CNBC. That's because it's the worst city in the country to retire if you'd like to keep more of your cash in your pocket, according to an analysis from Go Banking Rates. The personal finance website looked at major cities in all 50 states, ranking them based on property taxes, state levies on retirement benefits, healthcare costs, and the average retirement benefits check from Social Security. In particular, San Francisco residents are facing high living costs. Median list price of a house is $1.19 million in San Francisco. That's the median list price, $1.19 million. The average property tax bill is also on the hefty side, $9,137. Go Banking Rates found. Average monthly Social Security benefit clocks in at $1,387 for San Francisco residents. Quote, when you save so much for retirement, the key thing that'll hurt your savings is where you decide to live, said Sydney Champion, deputy editor of Go Banking Rates. In this case, real estate, particularly home prices and high property taxes, made several metro areas in the Golden State too expensive. And it goes over the worst cities to retire to and the best cities to retire to. The worst cities in order: San Francisco, number 1. Fremont, California, number 2, San Jose, California, number 3, Irvine, California, number 4, and Honolulu, Hawaii is number 5. The best cities to retire to: number 5, Indianapolis. By the way, I love Indianapolis. What a great town. Spokane, Washington. I've never been there, but nice place when I look at the pictures. Toledo, Ohio, right down the road from my old stomping grounds in Detroit. Baltimore, and number 1, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Home of the Fort Wayne Comets, by the way, in the IHL, I think. They used to be anyway. So I used to watch my Kalamazoo Wings when I was growing up play the Fort Wayne Comets. And going to Fort Wayne when you lived in Kalamazoo was very exciting. There was this mall there that had a skating rink in it, and I thought that was the best place ever. Now, what's the point here? I think the point is that when it comes to the worst city, I think you should start with your goal. Like, where do you want to live? If you want to live in San Francisco, I wouldn't let a Go Banking Rate study stop me from that. Now, what is interesting is this. I have found when I moved from a city to Texarkana, much smaller city, that I appreciate the amenities of big city life more when I go there. Like when I lived in the Detroit suburbs and I had great stuff all around me, I didn't love that at all. I mean, I was used to it, right? And then I move out to the middle of nowhere. Hey, I'm sorry, Texarkana. I love you. I love living here, but we're in the middle of nowhere. And when we live in the middle of nowhere and I go to Dallas, I absolutely dig it. I mean, I think it's fantastic. So for me, having the amenities around me, not as important as appreciating them when I go. So living in San Francisco being the place that you want to live, maybe instead you just visit there, like it says in this piece. But if you want to live in a place, I wouldn't let one of these studies, I wouldn't let any of that worry you. Well, I take that back. I'd let it worry you. I wouldn't let that stop you. I'd instead look at the cost to live there and I'd work backwards, right? Begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with your end goal. If my goal is to live in San Francisco, Fremont, San Jose, one of these really expensive places, I start with that as my goal. And then I work backward to how do I get it? What do I have to do today to get it? And then I cut other things instead. So if I want to live in a super expensive city, I might cut my transportation costs because your auto is your second most expensive thing, right? I wouldn't cut my healthcare. That's also on that big list. I might cut some of the other budget expenses that I have. Housing and auto are 1 and 2. So I might strategize around those. Also, if I'm thinking about a second house, maybe I own a timeshare, dump that stuff so I can live there. Work your plan backwards when it comes to your goal. Don't let the fact that a piece says San Francisco is really expensive deter you. I would hate to live in a place where I don't want to live just because it's cheaper. And I know people that do that, right? They look at the cheapest place they can retire and they go retire there. And how miserable is that? Not living where you want to live because of the fact that that it's quote too expensive. I love what my friend Paula at Afford Anything says. Paula Pant, you can afford anything, just not everything, right? And I think that's the case here. Hey, let's say another hello to our friends. People got a little chatty here. Brandon's here. Ryan's here. Christy's here with us today. Hey, guys. Glad that we've got some people hanging out with us. Not much chatter about these topics, though. So I think that means it's time for us to talk a little bit about Tiller. And then we'll talk about the big idea. What's our big idea today? Our big idea is we take one and another idea from the show, the two main headlines, and then we work backwards from there. So let's talk about our big idea. But first, let's talk about Tiller. Like I said, we were going to. I just had somebody pop up on Skype that wants to talk to me, and I haven't. They've changed Skype so that I can't get rid of notifications anymore. Skype, I love you, but you're driving me nuts. And now you're driving everybody else nuts as you're driving on your way to work, wondering why Joe's going off on Skype instead of talking about Tiller. Let's talk about Tiller. Hey, if you're a spreadsheet nerd like mom is, you're going to love Tiller because guess what? You can work your budget backwards like we talked about very easily and make it as complicated or as easy as you want because you're fully in control. No longer do you have to deal with the confines of that app, that program, whatever you like about it, whatever you don't like about it, because Tiller is designed specifically by you. Now, the good news is Tiller has templates that you can work from. I like things really, really easy. I know other people like it very, very complex when it comes to their budget and their tracking. You can do both with Tiller. It's not only on Google Sheets, they're now coming to Excel. So if you like Excel, you like Google Sheets, you like it easy, you like it difficult, Tiller highly changeable by you. StackyBenjamins.com/Tiller gets you there. That tells them, as mom said, that we sent you. All right, let's take these two big ideas, these two little ideas, and turn them into one big idea, shall we? Our first headline was all about the big recession coming. Big, huge recession, maybe around the corner, according to one expert, guy that called the crash in 1987. Just a couple of years ago, he called a crash. Our takeaway, don't believe that hype. Don't set yourself up to guess when the crash is coming. It is coming. We don't know when. Don't play that game. Give yourself enough assets in a spot where you don't have to play the game, and I think you're going to do a better job. The second headline, worst city for retirement in the United States. Start with your goal. If your goal is to live in San Francisco, don't let the fact it's expensive deter you. Cut other areas of your life so you can do what you want to do. Start with your goal and work backward from your goal. If you work that way, your assets will all line up nicely and you'll be able to get that dream that you have, no matter what it is. So how do these two intersect? I think the intersection today, guys, when it comes to our big idea, is captain your own ship. Like when we sit and worry about the next recession coming, and we do everything with our money based on the fact that something might happen. That's not what you do when you captain your ship. When you captain your ship, you're in charge. Instead, you're letting this idea that there might be a recession be in charge. Like, have a strategy. I know great financial people do not react to problems. They don't have a reaction. They already have a preset plan of what they're going to do. And if you're using the ship analogy, you have a course that you're following. There may be weather, there might be waves, and you're going to deal with those along the way, but you know what happens when there's weather and waves because you've got this map that you're working from. Begin with the end in mind. Captain your ship. Don't let, when it comes to where you want to live, why would I, if I want to live in San Francisco, why would I not live in San Francisco? I'm going to cut other things. And I'm going to find a way to do that. I'm going to find the money to do that. I'm going to cut expenses that aren't as important to me. I'm going to find a way to afford it. Captain your ship. You're in charge. Don't let go banking rates be in charge by telling you it's way too expensive for you. Don't let the person calling the next recession be in charge. It's your game, not theirs. And I think that's our takeaway today, guys. Hey, Thanks for hanging out with us today, everybody. Lori's here. Lori's late. Jason's here. Jason said, so today I learned the economic collapse will happen soon. Again, yes, Jason. Believe it or not, person 7,642 calls for the collapse. And my retirement house on the hill in downtown San Francisco may not be the best place to retire. He says, thanks, Dream Killer. That's why we're here, Jason. I am here to crush your dreams. That's specifically what we do here at Money in the Morning. And Ryan says, I think the best thing to send this off with, stay the course, is OG says. Amen, Ryan. Hey, guys, thanks a lot for playing on Facebook. Thanks to you at home for listening. We'll see you next time back here at Money in the Morning. Bye-bye.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Saul-Sehy and is brought to our channels by our producer and engineer, Richie Rutter-Reese. Stacking Benjamins and Money in the Morning are for entertainment purposes. Before making moves, consult with your financial advisor. Looking for training sessions? Kathleen Sellemans has a great suite of Stacking Benjamins tools, so head on over to learn.stackingbenjamins.com. Hoping to chat with us on the web? Say hello to Shannon Cowan, our social media guru and community manager in our Facebook group. She can be found at stackingbenjamins.com/basement. From the basement, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. See you tomorrow.
All right, we did it. Nice work, guys. Hey, I got to move on to the next thing, but it's great hanging out with you guys. Hey, Roger. Roger's in Colorado. Roger's playing cards in Colorado. He's playing rummy in Colorado. Sounds like you were riding your bike, too. Nice work, man. All right. Loving the pictures, Roger. All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see you guys later.